Chris Black. Chris Black, welcome
Hey
to the show.
man, good to see you again.
You know what? The subject that I want to bring up is consciousness. I've been really fascinated, and I know we had lunch and we discussed that.
Yeah,
And you said you were interested in it.
absolutely. Yeah,
I'm bringing this up because consciousness, to me, I've been watching it a lot on YouTube, and it's a very fascinating subject. And when we had lunch, we discussed that, and this is one of many shows that we're going to do, but consciousness is something that can be brought up over and over and over again. Why? Because I've seen this on YouTube, and they have had very, very smart people talk about consciousness. And yet, they all disagree what consciousness is all about.
yeah.
So, let's start off with, what is your opinion about consciousness?
You know, now that we've had the prior snafu with the other show, and we've had kind of time to think about it and talk about it deeply, I think it's this all-encompassing thing that we're in that connects us all, that determines our destinies. I mean, everything that we think about as humans, that we're confused about, or that makes us anxious or happy, I think it ties into, you know, if you're more of that inside the box thinker and don't want to get into the things you can't see or things that, you know, might not exist, the things you think about and why you think about what you think about. And you could go as normal as psychology or whatever. But at the same time, you can go further than that. And it's like, it's why do things happen the way they happen? Or it's really kind of the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain type of situation.
But who is the Wizard of Oz?
That's the $1 million question, right?
So I brought this up too because I think this world's being affected by being divided lately, and I look at it this way: with this new president that we have at this moment, has divided the country in half, and to me, it's very fascinating because that consciously is affecting everybody, even my friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
People that I had never really, thought about what they really thought behind the scene, because I can't do that, right? But when one is for, one's against, for example, the NFL kneeling thing. Some are for it and some are against it. Some people are angry. Even the vets half of them are for it. That's why we fought this country, so they can have the freedom of not standing for the flag. And then the other half is, we fought for this country so they can stand for the flag. So they can't even, figure it out themselves. So why are we so divided that we're doing that? And I think it's affecting us. And that is part of the consciousness. And the way I explained to you earlier is like when I'm with a family and we have this great meal ready to eat.
Yeah.
And then somebody starts with an argument. All of a sudden, the food doesn't taste good. Nobody wants to be there. The discussion just goes nowhere. Or even if it's a simple discussion, it's an argument.
Yeah.
That's what consciousness does.
Yeah.
And that's very powerful. So I am saying that I have my consciousness, but it's everywhere.
And I think with that, though, I think there's going to be some people out there that we're talking to, that we were talking about this earlier. We for whatever reason have a special ability to be very aware of these things. I think some of these things might take people unawares. People at your dinner table might just get taken by the feelings, or the people fighting about this on Facebook aren't thinking too deeply about this.
Yeah.
But then there's yourself, myself, and some of you out there that we're talking about. I think we have a responsibility to try to be sensitive to why this is happening and try to help people get to the other side of it. Because what I've seen with the family issues in my life or different conflict, and it's what we talked about on the first show, it's like everybody has a threshold. And maybe you and I, we've talked about all of the experiences we've had. You kind of had to really scrap through your years up to now. I've been through my own stuff. And we have a very high threshold for confusing and difficult things. Not everybody does.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, if someone starts getting uncomfortable, they start putting up walls. They start throwing spears. And all of a sudden, communication breaks down. But I think that, what we're talking about on the show is how can we empower ourselves to allow conversations to have constructive ends? Because at the end of the day, it's not whether someone's right or wrong. I think both sides are right. But how about we listen to each other?
But I don't agree with that both sides are right.
Yeah.
I think that it's just different point of view. And when you're wrong, you're wrong. And I'm just saying that standing is wrong or kneeling is wrong, but it's not like a positive and negative. You can't have two positives to be a magnet or two negative. It has to be a negative and a positive. So it has an effect.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're right for kneeling or wrong. What I'm saying is, in their mind, are they doing the right thing? If you have a passion for something, okay, that you says, I am kneeling for a cause that I really believe in, I will respect you for that. But if you're kneeling just to piss me off or to cause chaos, that's not really right.
Yeah.
Right? So when I see this division consciously saying, is it consciously or opinion? So we're saying, okay, my opinion is that they should not be kneeling. Or my conscience tells me that this guy should not be kneeling. There's two different things. So I think sometimes, and a matter of fact, that talking about the consciousness, I saw that a great documentary by Ken Burns on OPV, Vietnam. Did you see it by any chance? Man, you missed something great. And that was 10 episodes, and they were like hour and a half, an hour 45 each. And that was one of the things that really changed my point of view about kneeling or standing. Vietnam War was something that it opened my consciousness of how I see it even more about the flag standing or kneeling. Yeah. Because if you educate it and see that, it will change your mind too. Right. And I think when I am like you, I learn a lot. I'm more of a visual and listener. So YouTube, I listen to it a lot. And movies have really changed my point of view of things because sometimes they on movies, like I told you before, there's truths and lies and truths. So when you say something, even the Vietnam War, you know, I don't know when they did the video, was it more for the Republicans or the Democrat side? But when I looked at it, I cited my point of view, right? Yeah. And I might be wrong, but I'm just saying we all need to educate ourselves, either reading it or watching it, so you can either really throw an opinion, not just throw an opinion, just to throw it out there. Yeah. And you and I have had great conversations about this. Yeah. And I think a lot of people in my Facebook group, they don't know each other. So I see one say one thing and another say another. And I'm thinking, I really haven't thrown my 10 cents worth in there because I'm a terrible, to begin with. Sure. And you read text differently in writing. Yeah. You know, when you're watching me saying, look, do what you think is right. I respect both sides. Yeah. You stand because that's the freedom that we have in the United States. By hating somebody for it, it's wrong. Yeah, sure. Okay? You might not agree with it, but at the same time, good seems to win over evil most of the time.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Or educated people win over ignorance. So this conversation with consciousness to me is maybe beyond education, but this is something we all have in us. Yeah. Like you said, where does consciousness come from? Yeah. Why am I saying that?
And I just think that, you know, being conscious and expanding that consciousness requires a certain degree of vulnerability.
Yes, yes.
You know, because at the end of the day, when you start hating on people or you're just responding or you're following, you're being a sheep like we've talked about in the past, is you're not really allowing yourself to take that risk. Yeah. So I think you need to take a risk to become conscious because then you can start seeing things from a different perspective. Yeah. And I think you'll be very surprised that things will take you by surprise. You'll end up thinking things you didn't think, and it'll make your life that much richer.
Yeah. But you have to be conscious about that. And like I said, even if I didn't read any books or educate myself in videos or audio, but my conscience is still telling me what is right and wrong. Yeah. Some people doesn't seem to understand what's right and wrong. Yeah. It's just conflict all the time. Is that what their consciousness is telling them? Just, hey, you know what? Piss everybody off. Make everybody mad. Or just say something so it's almost like a wedge instead of uniting, you think?
I've started to think, you know, with a lot of the conflict that I deal with in my life and trying to rise above it and keep that leadership in a positive place, I really find that conflictive people are kind of in a dark room and they're kind of lashing out. And I do believe that anybody can see the light. And I think, you know, with strangers, there's sometimes those chance encounters. And even with this show, I think there'll be some of those chance encounters. You turn it on at just the right time, or you get some feeling or something resonates. But then when people that are closer to you, it's a much longer game. You really have to prove the validity of our point of view. And it's possible, but it's an investment. You know, it really requires character. It requires sticking with it, like you're saying, because if something has belief behind it, conviction behind it, and it's correct in the bigger metaphysical sense, it does win out. It just does. I mean, big examples in history are like, you know, everything that happened in World War II from the Hitler side was terrible, but good won out. And it wasn't necessarily guns. It was people believing. It was hope.
Yes.
And we're in a similar situation where I do believe the tides are going to change for the positive again. And we've talked about this a lot. We got to understand we're in such a blessed, lucky time in history with technology and wealth. But there's also so much of the world that's underdeveloped.
Yes.
So we always talk about, when we're talking about getting the bigger picture about things, and yeah, it's wonderful that we have free speech, although people debate what that really means in this country. But I think what we're trying to do here with the show is just capture a little bit how, let's start with what you have, with yourself, with myself, and go from there. Because you don't have to feel oppressed by all the problems or try to fix it all. You can start with your own consciousness, be aware of what's going on around you, and just like you're being mindful about what goes on your Facebook page, you're not just reacting, you're trying to respond. You're trying to understand before you act because you're trying to see it from every side. You're trying to get educated. And you want to be able to contribute and have something grow.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right, because when I see it, I don't get mad really quick. I'm one of those guys that, and you're right, I want to see both point of view. I get angry when the guy is trying to, not angry, but I kind of shut him off because it's his way or the highway. It's not that way. But what I'm seeing both of them argue, I can kind of see the both point of view, but at the same time, there is a common goal of what is the right thing.
Yeah.
Okay? Kneel or don't kneel. You're still standing for your beliefs. But nobody should ridicule you for something that if you kneel, if I kneel right now, at this point, so I'm going to kneel because I'm just going to piss them off. That's wrong. Everybody's going to criticize. But if I say, I really believe that I'm standing my ground and I'm going to kneel, it is something different, right? But I can see the point of views. But we argue about the dumbest thing, really.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of ugly things happening really in this world right now that we should be focused on. The hurricanes, the earthquakes, the floods, the fires, the shooting that just happened not too long ago in Vegas. It's something that, how can we help? How can we give? Because consciously, I want to help, right?
Yeah.
But is the help going to get there?
Right.
Instead of saying, oh, now we make this political.
Yeah.
Gun issues, the victims. And you know what? In reality, a lot of the TV shows, even the news, they manipulate you sometimes. Yeah. You need to do the right thing. So if you want to help with money, but don't help because you hate others. Just help to help one way or another. We really don't know what happened to the shooting, and everybody's arguing and fighting and giving opinions. You don't know the facts yet. If the guy was crazy in the Vegas shooting, did he do it intentionally or consciously knew what he was doing? What was the cause? We don't know all that yet. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm very patient. I do want to know. Yeah. But at the same time, don't divide the country. Now they're trying to divide the country by saying, oh, it's all country people or, country folk with all whites. And it's almost like, no, don't start dividing because it was all whites or blacks or brown. Give me the facts of what really made this shooting happen. Was the guy all there? If he was mentally ill, we can't do anything about it. Yeah. Right? It's sad that it happened. It could have happened to any of us that has somebody with mental issues. And then, remember, you should feel like you're, at least try to understand what happened. Because sometimes having compassion for somebody that's mentally ill, I think I can accept it. But if the guy did it evilly, put him in jail for the rest of his life. Yeah. Well, he committed suicide, right? But all I'm saying, consciously, I am saying that I have patience to a certain point because I want to give you, I don't know, I want to grow with it. That consciousness is growing with it. Because like I said, I can't even explain it. I don't know how I feel inside. Is it just being biased or the consciousness really guiding me? Say, be calm, collective, under pressure, be cool. Because when if you're not cool under pressure, that's when you lose it, and that's when you start fights and wars and all this other stuff that shouldn't happen. We need somebody that can do that. Because consciously says, if I start a war or I start this, it's going to affect everybody else.
Yeah.
So you think about what consciousness is all about and let us know. Like I said, I'm going to put your Facebook if you want me to.
Yeah, sure.
If you want to hear some replies, like I said, if you're going to reply on this, give me something to think about, not hate letters or text that I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I don't. But I'm giving my humble opinion was my consciousness about that this could be a better world if we can all sit down and say, hey, how can we make this United States or this planet better?
Yeah.
That's it. And it doesn't take very much to do it, but once you start dividing everybody, nothing is going to work. Once you put a wall here, no matter what I say, you're not listening.
Right.
So what's happening? Are we losing the gift of consciousness? Are they even teaching this in college? You went to Yale.
Yeah.
You tell me.
I mean, I think, even, I think what's happening is I think we're being challenged as a species to let go more and allow invisible natural processes to take over. And you're right. Several years ago, I started my undergrad at Yale, and I've had all these different experiences. And there's so many ways things could have gone, supposedly, but also the world keeps changing.
Oh, yes.
And there's challenges we've never seen before. And really, I think, and we talked about this earlier, it's we live in such an amazing time. But even as we're having this conversation right now, I can feel, and we were talking about it earlier, I can feel my insides wanting to go further. But I can also feel my own fear. My own fear to step out and do what's next.
Yes.
For whatever reason. Because I have my brain that's thinking, and I have my feelings that are feeling, and I have my memories, and I have my social relationships, and there's everything that goes into any person's life. But then all of a sudden, we all have an opportunity to respond to the unknown and not be afraid of it. And to accept that there's always going to be more, if we're willing, that can transform us and transform the world around us. And we don't need to know exactly what it looks like to take those first steps.
Yeah, they always criticize the people that do take the first step because they're crazy. Like you said, what was the thing that you said before?
We were talking about it. Some philosopher said that truth goes through this pretty normal process that at first it's ridiculed, it's laughed at, then it's violently opposed, and then it's just accepted as fact.
It's kind of like with religion and science, right? We talked about that. So for the people that are watching this show, it's not just to start an argument. It's start about consciousness. Think about what is the right thing to do. I can't change anybody. All you're doing is just putting it out there. The best thing to do at this moment, supposedly, we're more educated than any other country in the world, and yet we're still doing that third world country thinking. And, I have religious people that are saying dumb things out there, and I'm a religious person. You know what? Really keep religion out, or even your opinion. Read the facts, and then you can give an opinion. Because it's easy to give opinions. It's like listening to gossip. Everybody likes gossip. But when you want to talk about politics, religion, I'm against that. I don't care. But why is it that we always, like the NFL, we brought that up before on the show that didn't record, but if they want to stand, let them stand. If they want to kneel, let them kneel. Don't force your ego or your just opinion that says, I'm going to hate this guy because he kneel. You know what? I don't care if you're black, brown, or whatever color. At least he's making a stand. What are you doing?
And I think it's kind of investment. I think at the end of the day, when anybody can say something negative to someone that they don't know, it's because ultimately you're using that person. And the moment that you start using people as some kind of get off just for a moment to get something hateful off your chest, you've pretty much fallen off the consciousness wagon. And you're walking around in kind of like caveman type circles. I mean, it's even worse than the third world. You're taking several millennia steps back when you do that. And really, we have to begin to understand that every person is a person and be okay with how overwhelming that feeling is. And allow yourself to be brave enough to say, okay, I can no way get this done in a day, a year, or even 10, but I can give myself to a mysterious process called life, where there's going to be so many people with so many different kinds of lives and perspectives. And here's the thing, there's these things happening at the higher levels with the NFL and the politicians and this and that. But at the end of the day, you do have control over your own life and how you choose to see it and how you choose to live it with the people around you.
Yep.
And I think that's what we're trying to get at. Because there's always going to be these things that go and come and ebb and flow historically, even in our own lives. But we need to learn to get to that secret place that doesn't change. Because it exists.
Yeah.
And you know it exists, but it takes courage. It takes rest. It takes a little bit of risk taking in ways that don't make sense to the normal mind to begin to feel peace, joy, love, and these things that ultimately are the only solution. And they seem vague, but they're also pretty much the way to get to innovative ideas. Start with yourself, your family, your community, and you can even go global. Because at the end of the day, most of the things we do to change the world will never get documented in some magical big way. But they're worth it.
Yeah.
They're worth it.
I think we're just a blip in.
But that's awesome.
Yeah, I think so too. I think sometimes we're taking a risk, or well, it's not really a risk. I don't think this is a risk at all. Giving out an opinion about consciousness, and maybe that's a safe place to be, because everything you said right now, I was listening. Were you saying it because you study this stuff, or you say it because your conscience is saying it?
See, ultimately, this stuff that I just said, and I even felt it, it's coming from the deepest part of me that I know how to get to. And to me, it's more valuable than anything I've ever read. And if anything, when I'm reading stuff or I'm seeing information, what I'm really seeing is the passion of a person that wanted to share that information with me.
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes we don't practice enough, because what you said you felt like here in the gut, right?
Yeah.
Some people said they think they feel it in the heart. Some people they feel it in the brain. There's 3 ways to think of things, and which one is correct? Which one is correct? Your heart, your gut, or your brain that tells you this is the right thing to do?
In my opinion, the gut really can't go wrong, but you better have, excuse my language, the to follow through with the gut. Because I think the gut is where the real genius and beautiful things in life come from, but it will confuse your brain.
Yeah.
You know, your brain's here for all sorts of things, but it's not the most reliable thing. It's lying to us all the time. It can be kind of paranoid. I don't know how everybody else's brains works, but it's not the most reliable. I think it can get the practical things done. And I don't know, maybe because I've been through stuff, my heart's still kind of coming alive. But I have been doing extraordinary things for 10 years all over the world, and I've been in hard situations, and I know Jose's been through a lot of stuff, and I think if you can learn to connect with that instinct, if you want to call it, it can change things.
So, I mean, that's where it's confusing itself. You know, like you said, if you're going with your gut, is that part of the consciousness being gut feeling? Is that this is where it gets interesting with the consciousness. You're saying it's coming from the gut, and I agree with you. But basically, I do agree with you, because somebody says, "Well, my heart's telling me this, but my gut's telling me this." But in my brain, I'm overthinking it, and it's very confusing, guys. I mean, even for us, even for the great scientists, they still haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
So if you're not an uneducated person and you have something more of a gift and you understand what conscience is, you cannot do anybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's just theory.
Yeah.
What we're talking about. So everybody can twist the theories around, like you said. Where is our consciousness?
The real proof, you know, I think we might try to coin a new term here. Maybe someone already has, but I think what we're talking about here is sandbox consciousness. We're not trying to explain it. We're not trying to say this is that. You're seeing 2 guys that have lived from the gut with the invisible, with faith, expanding consciousness for years, and it works.
Mm-hmm. It works.
So we're encouraging you to dare to believe that. Be inspired by who you need to be inspired by, but find why you're here.
No, I agree with you. And that was, like I said, keep going, because that is something that when you speak with a passion, like I said, is it really, when I say consciousness, and I'm going to go out a little bit of a consciousness, is it your soul, your energy? But it's coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? And that to me is, as a religious person, like say, oh, we have a soul. And the people that don't believe, they have energy. Then the people that are maybe out of the box or in the box is consciousness. So there's different things that we can't figure out. And that's why we're all over the board with this discussion about, kneeling or, education or feeling the gut. you have consciousness. If you go with it and you don't agree with us, that's fine. But if you agree with us, it's almost like it's great because we can target more people. Say, you know what? I'd rather hang around with somebody that is passionate about something that is good than somebody just doing evil stuff, just to do evil stuff. Or it's all about me and I don't care. I care about it always starts family, friends, and strangers.
Yeah.
If you think that way, it's a goodwill because everyone goes, oh, I'm just thinking about myself. No, that's the whole point about consciousness or your spirit is you take care of yourself so you can give it out.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to be who you are so your consciousness can grow it with you. And I have, even when I was a kid, that even with us studying about consciousness, and I've been a religious person, it goes, it's always been a conflict about religion, souls, energy, consciousness. And even when I was a kid, I was always been fascinated about it, but I never knew how to really read it. But now that YouTube's out there, it's fascinating. Some of them, you can tell they're making stuff up so they can sell books, and that's okay. But even themselves, like I said, maybe they're fascinated or they just want to sell books. I don't know. But this topic is very fascinating. And like I said, I really appreciate, hopefully it's not our last show. And if anybody's interested in being on the show, let me know. We can do it on TV or record it, or we can do it in audio by Facebook or whatever. But we do want to hear some kind of a reply because I want to make sure that at least the message is getting out.
Yeah.
If only one watches it and replies, that'd be great. If a billion of them, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, Chris Black, thank you very much. It was really good. Again, we can continue with the same subject for the next time you come around when you have time.
Yeah.
Or we can pick a different subject.
Yeah.
But it's always have to be something that is, I mean, we can talk about negative stuff, but I think I'd rather talk about more of something more uplifting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because if you talk about downer stuff, everybody's feeling down. Or when you're down, you start listening to sad music. Everything's, even if it's a sunny day, it looks great to you. No, when you're like that, I want to hear good things.
Yeah, come on.
And I believe consciously that laughter is the best medicine.
Amen. Yes,
okay.
sir.
So thank you for watching this show. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll do another one soon. And we'll go from there. Thank you.
Guys. Yeah, thanks, man.